90% of income earners in the company. Keith also went on to found a real estate recruiting company and helped to recruit thousands of agents to brokerages across the country. Today, as CEO of Complete XRM and through the PlanPlus Online CRM product, he works with many of the nation's top real estate teams to build a culture of productivity. Keith shares his knowledge through various ebooks and blog postings, including Progressive Goal Planning and the 5 Building Blocks of Culture, as well as today's presentation, The 5 Secrets of a Successful Real Estate Team. Again, we're grateful for you to spend this time with us. Without further ado, I'm going to turn time over to Keith Norris. And again, as you have questions, please do so in the question panel in the lower right.
Terrific. Thanks, James. Thanks for the intro, and thanks for helping get everyone together today. And just so everybody's aware, we do have this presentation being recorded, this webinar here today. So we will, within a few hours of the presentation today, we will post that back to the link that will be shared after the webinar. So you'll have access to this later as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the presentation today. As James mentioned, the 5 secrets of successful real estate teams. And first of all, what I'd like to do, just so that we can cater this a little bit to the folks that are here with us on the call, and we'll use some examples that are most relevant to you. I'd like to ask a quick question. Just tell me about your real estate team. Give me an idea of the size of your team. Do you have a team? Are you working by yourself? And just go ahead and answer that question when you see that pop up there. Let me see if we've got a few folks who are seeing that poll there. Okay, terrific. Yep, getting the numbers. We'll just give this about 15 more seconds. Go ahead and select one of those options there, and let us know the size of your team, whether you have a team or not. Okay, great. We've got a good portion of everybody who's voted. We'll just give it about 5 more seconds. You got 5 more, 3, 2, 1, and we'll go ahead and close that poll. Okay, so it looks like a majority of the folks on the call today either have one assistant. We got 38% have one assistant, and then we've got a team with more than 3 people there at 31%. So over half the people, well, almost 70% of the people have at least one assistant. So that's helpful for me to know who we have on the phone and who we're talking to. And I've been a big advocate of teams, as James mentioned from the very beginning. Really, within the first few months of me getting into the business, my mentor, a gentleman by the name of Mike Morgan, who's been in the business probably 30 years now, really pushed me to get an assistant and to start building a team. So it was really from an early point, and I had a background in corporate America and other industries as well, where teams and that sort of thing were more of the norm, whereas in real estate it was more single agents. But over the last 12 years, I've watched what seems like a trend, but definitely a rise of some of the most successful agents and panels and discussions across the country talking about teams. And there's so many benefits in running a team, and we'll talk about a few of those today, that I thought I'd put together a few ideas or a few key points to focus on in building a team and how to have a successful team. So the secret number 1 here that we'll share with you is this idea that you really can't do it all yourself. I mean, there's a great epiphany that happens to hopefully all of us when you realize that you can actually get more done through others than you can through yourself. And when you have that realization, it's really empowering, and it can give you a lot more options through your real estate business and in life. Now here's a slide. You might recognize this slide right here. This is one of our heroes who has definitely fallen from grace in terms of his how he got to the top. But I use a couple of cycling examples, because as a cyclist, this right here is the current, or the most recent winner of the Tour de France, Christian Froome. But cycling is a sport that is often thought of as a single individual sport. If you're not familiar with it, there's one person riding a bike, And it looks very much like an individual sport. So you might think that real estate is a lot the same way. But one thing about cycling that's a lot like real estate is this right here, this little picture, this screenshot right here. This is what they call a peloton in cycling. And so you'll see these races if you happen to catch a little bit on TV or whatnot when the Tour de France, which is coming up here soon, it's big news on ESPN and all the different channels will be talking about it. Or maybe you're driving down the street and you see those crazy cyclists who are hogging the road, and you see them riding in these big groups. And the guys up front, they're the ones that are taking all the wind resistance. So they're the ones that are working the hardest. The guys at the back, they're actually not working very hard. And so when you see these teams work, here you've got some guys, you see the matching jerseys, those typically represent a team. They work together. The guys up front will take the wind resistant, they'll work hard, and then they'll rotate to the back and they get a little bit of a rest. And so when you're riding as a group, you can actually ride probably 20 or 30% faster and farther than if you're riding by yourself. And that same analogy, that the idea of the peloton applies very much to real estate, because in real estate there's so many things that the highs and lows, just the emotional highs and lows, not much less the financial highs and lows that can happen in the business are really enough to create a lot of turnover, to have people who come in and maybe they have success for a couple of years and then then things get tough. So if you look at not just the physical help that a team can give you by letting you take a day off when you need to take a day off, or being there to show those buyers when you want to go take care of that important personal commitment or personal relationship. Maybe it's something with a spouse, an anniversary, a birthday. Maybe it's something with a child. Maybe it's some other important family function or some other social commitment that you have. Having a team can enable you to enjoy the success that you can generate, that you can create in real estate. You fit in a number of different ways. So the main idea here is that you can't do it all yourself. And as soon as you realize that, you start to look for help. It's really an empowering epiphany that you'll have. So a couple of ideas here. Obviously, teamwork matters. And as we look at setting up a team, one of the first questions that people ask is what is the ideal structure of a team? And there's a lot of insights here, and I'll share a couple of insights with you. So this picture right here, this is an early automobile, if you didn't guess that. It's not necessarily the first automobile, but it is Henry Ford's first automobile. This was built in 1896. 1986 sounds like a pretty long time ago as well, almost, but this is even further. This is 1896, and this is Henry Ford's first car. Now, a lot of folks are familiar with Henry Ford's story and some of the things that he did, but one of the things that he did was he implemented an assembly line approach to building cars. So he didn't invent the car, but he really invented a new way of building the car. Before Henry Ford, a lot of folks, they built cars a lot like people sell real estate today. They focus all of their energy around one car or around one property, and they work on it until it's done, and then they move on to the next one. So a typical agent today might focus all their energy on getting one listing and then focus all their energy on getting that listing sold, and then next thing you know, you've got no listings and you're back to the drawing board again. So the thing that Henry Ford did, he took the art of making an automobile from something that took weeks or even months in some cases, and he turned it into something that could be done in 93 minutes. So that Model T car, he built that in 93 minutes on his assembly line. It was really revolutionary. Now it's a principle of business that you'll hear preached all over the place, and you're going to hear it preached today when I talk about how to set your team up, because setting up a team can help you create that assembly line type system inside of your organization, where you have individuals who can focus on things like prospecting, getting the listings. You have folks that can focus on taking care of the marketing. You have folks that can focus on showing your buyers. So number one, to just emphasize why work with a team. For one, you're worth more than your lowest paying task. If you're a really great listing agent, my goodness, you should be spending as much of your time as possible doing that high dollar per hour activity. If you're spending a lot of time doing a a 5, 10, well, probably not 5 unless you're outsourcing it, $10, $15 an hour task, you ought to look to outsourcing that. And there's a number of ways that you can do this incrementally before you go and hire a fully staffed team. But you should look to outsource those lower paying activities, the things maybe that you're not so great at, because you're not going to be great at everything. You're not going to be the best listing agent, the best showing agent, the best flyer creator, the best cold call tractor, the best transaction coordinator. And as much as you want to be prideful and do a good job at all those things, realize that somebody else can probably do just as good a job at you at creating those flyers. Somebody can do just as good a job at you at maybe even showing those buyers those properties. I talked a little bit about the motivation factor of working with the team. I mean, there's nothing worse than having a big deal fall apart. It's the kind of thing that makes you want to quit the business and get out and, go home and cry or whatever, punch the wall, whatever it is that you might do when you're upset or having a bad day. And so having a team, having a group of people that as the team leader, that they're counting on you. If you don't show up, what are they going to do? So there's part of a commitment that you take on when you set up a team, and it really is a commitment to be successful. And so it creates that extra little bit of motivation. Additionally, it's going to create some leverage for you so that you can get more done than you could on your own. And you're going to be able to take some time off occasionally. Most real estate offices, all of them that I've seen, don't exactly have a PTO policy, paid time off. There isn't vacation time. There isn't sick leave in the real estate business. If you're sick, if you're on vacation, typically your paychecks are on vacation as well. So building a team lets you actually create the ability to take some time off. Okay, so what is the right structure of a team? Over here on the left, what I've got is a list of roles that you might say. Roles are different hats that somebody on your team is going to wear. So these are the different activities. Now, if you're a single agent working by yourself, you're going to have these different roles that you're functioning. So you're going to, here's the visual for you. You've got a stack of hats. You got a baseball hat. You got, all these different hats. You're taking off the listing agent hat. You're putting on the buyer's agent hat. You're taking off the buyer's agent hat. You're putting on that marketing coordinator hat. You're taking that hat off. You're putting on the listing coordinator hat. So one of the first things to do, if you're wondering, am I ready to get a team started? What I would recommend is that you start doing some time blocking. So this is time blocking. It's not something that I invented. It's a time management skill that I've picked up on and I've learned and I've really appreciate the value of. And so this time blocking activity is something where you can go and you can separate out the different time you're really spending in each one of these areas. And based on whether it's something that you like to do or something that you don't like to do, ask yourself, which of these are you best at? Which of these do you really excel in? If there's one of these that you're really excellent at and you really enjoy doing, then keep that for yourself. You're the boss. Don't delegate the work that you really love to do. Delegate the work that you don't love to do. It's your team. You're the boss, right? So if you really don't like doing one of these activities, maybe it's the listing coordination to you. That's just the detail work that is just frustrating. So you should look at hiring a listing coordinator or even just hiring a part-time listing coordinator. We'll get into some different methods for how to find your team. So idea number one with the team structure is break things out. This is my recommendation. You've got your listing agent function. You've got your buyer's agent function. You've got your marketing coordinator activities. This is all of the marketing that you're going to do for yourself and ultimately for your properties. There is some overlap between your listing coordination and marketing coordinator role. If anybody has any questions about those, I'm happy to make some recommendations and talk more about that particular one. So the lead generator. Now this is something that a lot of people outsource to these third-party companies. Maybe it's Zillow, maybe it's Trulia, maybe it's one of these other ones that you're buying leads from. This is an activity that you could easily do yourself if you're willing to make some phone calls and do some prospecting. I highly recommend that it's very difficult to outsource the relationship part of your sphere of influence unless you're going to delegate that to one of your team members perhaps, but that's probably one of the hardest things to delegate. But you can always buy leads from a third party or get leads from a company, all kinds of different things like that. And then ultimately the transaction coordination. The transaction coordination, for me and my teams, the transaction coordination was really a critical piece because you can get that's one of the areas in real estate where having experience is really key. The difference between a brand new agent who it's their first transaction and somebody that's been in the business 20 years, one of the biggest differences between those agents isn't exactly, who's going to be able to find a good deal on a property. Anybody who's been a shopper and knows how to browse the MLS is going to be able to find a house that's less expensive than another one. But somebody who's got some good experience in real estate, they've seen all kinds of deals go sideways, they're going to be real savvy. So a transaction coordinator is a real key role in terms of the satisfaction and keeping your deals together. But this is a good outline of some of the activities. Now, maybe you want to start with a buyer's agent and start delegating some of those leads. My personal recommendation would be to start with either transaction coordination or one of these marketing coordinator, listing coordinator type roles as far as the first ones that you might want to look at delegating. So back to the idea of why teams. Why would you want to have a team? I've got a little slide here that lets us take a look at this from the perspective of Mr. Buyer or Miss Seller who you're going in to have a listing presentation with. So you've got these appointments set up. Mr. Jones, he's selling his $300,000 house on Park Lane. And he's got some interviews scheduled with some real estate agent. You've got agent one that comes in and he tells him all the great things, and Mr. Seller, who thought he was going to do it by owner, was impressed that this guy could get him on the MLS. And he looked at his website and saw, okay, well, he's got a website, and he told me about all these other websites that he's going to get my property posted to. And wow, this guy says he's a social media expert, and he's got good experience. He's been in the business years. And he says he works his tail off. He works 50 hours a week selling your house. Well, that sounds pretty good, but you've got this follow-up appointment. You've got somebody else scheduled right after that, and this agent comes in, and agent two comes in, and he says, yeah, I've got access to that same MLS. Yeah, I also have a nice website. I've got a good understanding of social media. Some people call me a social media expert. I've got good experience. I've got one full-time marketing assistant. So on days like today, when I'm out on a listing appointment trying to talk to more people who are looking to sell their house and buy another one, in fact, it might be somebody who's looking to buy your house, I've got a marketing assistant who's back in my office who is putting all of the marketing information together. So you don't have to worry about me being tied up or unavailable, because if I'm in a listing appointment, I'm not necessarily I'm going to turn my phone on silent probably. Agent one over here, if a buyer calls him while he's trying to generate business with somebody else, he might miss that call. Me, it's not going to happen. Those buyer's agents, they pick that phone up every time it rings. I've also got a transaction coordinator. My transaction coordinator is somebody who's personally dedicated to making sure that once we get a contract on your property, that everything goes smoothly, that we do everything in our power to make sure that that transaction gets closed, and when it's time for you to sell your property and move into that new one, that we don't have problems with the transaction not getting done because somebody forgot to send some piece of paperwork to the title company or the mortgage company. I got somebody whose job it is to stay on top of that mortgage company, stay on top of all those affiliates to make sure that that transaction gets closed. Together, we spend over 200 hours a week dedicating to sell your house. And you know what? You're going to spend the same commission on me and my team as you will on that single agent. So let me ask you, who would you hire? If you're a seller looking to sell your house, would you hire a team or would you hire an individual? Realize it's the same price. Do you want a team of people working on your property, or do you want a single person? This right here is the pitch that if you're working by yourself, this is the pitch that the teams are out there giving to those sellers. If you wonder why you lost a listing to somebody who has a team, this right here is a pretty good reason as to why that may have happened. Okay, so where to start? Where to start in building your team? My first recommendation would be to start by delegating some of the simple tasks. Like I said, delegate the tasks that you don't love to do. If there's stuff that you kind of get annoyed with, it's really not that fun. Maybe trying to work in Publisher or Photoshop or design programs is not your thing. Certainly find a way to delegate that. There's a lot of services out there. I mean, some offices will have assistants that can do some of this stuff for you. There's a lot of great services like Elance and Fiverr, and the list goes on and on. There's a number of different third-party sources that you can get marketing activities done as well. You might look at working with somebody else in your office and going in instead of jumping in with both feet, you might just jump in with one foot, and you might do something like sharing an assistant. Maybe there's somebody else in your office who thinks it would be a good idea to have a team, and you guys agree together to get a shared assistant. From there, you might consider a full-time assistant, somebody who can do your transaction coordination work on your behalf. This is a really, your first hire on your team is really a key a key role. This person is, you know, a lot of times you're making a commitment to this person for a base salary. You can also do things like, you know, base salary is probably the best way to pay this person. If you happen to have somebody who's licensed, you can do some other things that are, you know, variable compensation based on the transaction. You know, check your local, your RESPA rules for, you know, all the things you got to be careful of when in compensating those folks. With your transaction coordinators, it's best to have somebody who is perhaps licensed. And then obviously buyer's agents. Buyer's agents, you know, maybe that's somebody with a little bit less experience in your office. Maybe it's somebody who's got a lot of experience, but they're not that great at doing the marketing side of the business. Or you've got your marketing and listing coordinator. That's another admin type role. Somebody who's a good marketer can come in and be a part of your team. Now, as you start to build out your team, you'll have one or more people in each of these roles. And another thing to consider here is you think about where to start. This is something that I've been talking about for a couple of years now, but there's been a lot of attrition in the real estate business. A lot of really great people who are very competent, that have a lot of experience, have basically gotten out of the business because things have gotten tough, things got a little bit hard, and you know, maybe they took that part-time job and made it a full-time job and that sort of thing, and so maybe their real estate license is, you know, hopefully still active. That might be somebody who could make a good assistant for you. They know the business, but maybe they're just not that comfortable or that strong with the marketing side of things, and they might be a really good member of your team. Secret number 2, you got to have what they want. I mean, this life economics, you've heard supply and demand. When you're building a team, there's 2 things that you really want to have. The first one is buyer's agents want buyer leads. Sellers want buyers. Now, real estate is really kind of an interesting business. Now, as James mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, I've done a lot of real estate recruiting, and a real estate recruiting interview is unlike most other interviews that you know, the rest of the world might be familiar with. A real estate interview with most brokers is much more like a sales pitch. It's a lot more like getting one of those free vacations, or one of those you know, free vacations where all you have to do is sit in a presentation for an hour. Most brokers will tell you how, you know, it's a pitch, right? Because they're not offering you a base salary. They're just saying, come hang your license here and hopefully sell a couple houses, and the broker will make money. So it's a lot more of a pitch than it is a traditional interview. Now, if you're offering a base salary, that might be a little bit different. But if you're just looking to recruit a buyer's agent and you're just going to have them working on commission, and you're going to take one on a listing presentation, there's really nothing more powerful. I mean, everybody's going to come in and say, hey, I'm going to do this marketing, I'm going to do that marketing, I'm going to put you up here, I'm going to put you up there. There's really something powerful about being able to walk into that listing presentation and to show them a list of 2, 5, 20, 50, 100 buyers that you're currently working with, what their criteria are, and to say, you know what, this, and this buyer, these guys are, I'm going to show them your house, I'm going to tell them about your house. That's something that not everybody out there is doing. In fact, I'd be surprised if very many people are doing that at all. Most people don't have their lead capture prospecting systems well enough organized to do that, but you know, you got to have a well-organized database to do that. But sellers want to know that you've got buyers, and buyers agents want to know that you've got buyers leads. You can't expect to hire somebody onto your team and say, okay, now go do everything that you were going to do, but just call it, you know, just put yourself onto my team. You've got to add some value to those team members, and the value that you're going to add for those buyers agents is leads. So how do we capture leads? What are some of the different things that we're doing to capture leads? What are some insights here that I can share with you on how to capture leads? Number 1 is website integration. It's no secret that you've got to have a website. One thing that I would say is a little bit more of a secret is that you've got to have a website that's capturing those leads and it's putting them into your database, because if it's just sending you an email, people lose emails. People forget about emails. People hit the file, the archive button, and they just get lost. If you don't have an automated system for turning those emails into leads inside of your database, you're wasting money. You're wasting money on those leads. NAR has some statistics about the amount of time that a buyer takes to actually make a purchase, and it's last time I looked at the study, it was about 13 months from the time that they first start looking. So they might pop onto your radar in January, and they might not actually buy a house until a year from February. 13 months later, they're actually buying a house. And so one of the things that you've got to have a little different mindset when you're a team. You got to think about the long term. Yes, a lot of great real estate coaches will tell you if you want to make $1 million, you got to be working with people who are ready to write a contract this week. Well, that's true. But if you're looking to build a business, a team is very much your own business. It's a business within a business. You need to be thinking about the long term. You need to be thinking about what buyer leads your buyer's agents are going to be closing 13 months from now, 2 years from now. And every one of the leads that comes into your lead capture system is something that you want to be capturing and you want to be devoting some attention to. So making sure that you've got a good system for going from email to lead capture is a critical part of the lead capture piece. If you're buying leads, that's probably the biggest sin, is if you're spending money on leads and then you're not capturing those, you're not following up with those. A lot of times people get disenchanted. A lot of people say that their Trulia and Zillow leads close at 1 or 2%. Well, I've seen people who close Trulia and Zillow leads at 8, 9, 10% because they have a better follow-up system in place. Manual input. If you don't have your phone integrated in with your CRM, if you don't have your lead capture integrated with your CRM and you're just getting phone calls onto your phone, you got to make sure that you're putting those into your database as well. I mean, every single lead that hits you got to think, okay, no lead slips through the cracks. It's before you worry about the systems and the technology, you've got to have the mindset. You've got to have the mindset shift that we don't let any lead slip through the cracks, and you've got to really create that culture inside your organization. Now, of course, you can import leads. A good way to do this is working with title companies. If you are going to do some farming, I'd recommend doing some more targeted farming. Like, let's say you're going to get, instead of just a bunch of email addresses or a bunch of addresses that you're going to do mailers to, do something that's a little bit more strategic. Like maybe you go pull a list that has multifamily properties where you've got the subject address and the mailing address are 2 different addresses, because what that tells you is the person that owns that property doesn't live at that property, and that's a pretty good indication that they are an investor. And if you're doing any sort of investor deals, it would be good to have a list of investors. So when you got these fixer-uppers and those kind of things that come on the market, then you've got a list of people that are in your investor buyer list. So those are good examples of ways you can capture data and put it into your database. So secret number 3 is all about repetition. So this one came to me when I was sitting in the airport, and I was sitting next to a gentleman who looked successful. He had all the adornments of success, the $500 shoes and the $5,000 watch and the $2,000 suit, and he had the assistants running around helping him, and we happened to be sitting down next to each other, and I says, you look successful, tell me what your secret is. And he said to me something that really stuck with me, and it's part of this slide right here. He says, you know what, success is really easy. I says, it's easy? What do you mean? If success is easy, why doesn't everybody do it? And he says, well, because success is actually really boring. What do you mean by that? He says that few people are willing to pay the price. Few people are willing to do the repetitive tasks that it takes to be successful. I can tell you that I bet everybody here today probably has some experience, positive or negative, with things like FSBOs, for sell-by owners. Everybody on this call probably has some sort of experience, positive or negative, with expireds. Somebody on this call is going to say, you know what, expireds don't work. I tried that. It didn't work. Somebody's going to say, you know what, I did that FSBO thing. I did it for a couple of weeks, or I did it for a couple of days. It didn't work. I tried that cold calling thing. It didn't work. So, I'm not going to do it. You know what? All of these things don't work sometimes, and all of these things do work sometimes. There is a way to make all of those things work. There's a way to make only selling properties to multi-million-dollar buyers work. I saw it. My next door neighbor in my office focused on selling exclusively high-end properties, had a phenomenal business. I've seen people focus exclusively on the low end. I've seen people focus exclusively on construction. All of these things are possible if you're willing to become an expert on the little things. So the idea here is that success isn't difficult. Success is easy. It's the little things that you've got to get right. It's waking up at that same time each day. It's holding yourself accountable to that 1 hour of prospecting you're going to do. Keep that in your mind. It's not difficult. It's not hard. It's really easy. It's the little things. It's the little things that are going to make a big difference for you today. So who is it that's holding you accountable? Accountability is key in order to do these little things. Now, if this is where I can plug all of the real estate coaches and say that the real estate coaches out there have a lot of value if you're willing to take advantage. If you need somebody to help you be accountable to what you said you're going to do, then get yourself a coach, get yourself a real estate coach, get yourself a buddy in the office that can help you have some accountability. The next thing around this that I'm talking about is time blocking. I mentioned this up in secret number 1, but time blocking is the art of blocking out time on your schedule to do certain activities. And remember, these are probably those things that you don't love to do. Like if you're not a huge extrovert and people person, maybe prospecting really isn't that fun. But you know what? Being successful means paying the price. It's doing the little things. It's doing the things that not everybody is willing to do. You may have heard the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So I've got my own little saying here that I use with my team: 2 listing appointments a day to make 100K. So one thing, you can't always control the outcome. You can go on a listing presentation, you can do your best, you can give the exact same presentation for whatever reason. Maybe it's the person had a bad day, maybe it's they just don't like you, I don't know, whatever the case might be. You can't always count on the outcome. But one thing that you can count on is the input. And if you can focus on 2 listing appointments a day, that was my guarantee to my team to make 100K. If you focus on the input, your input is getting those listing appointments, you know what, you might have days in a row where you don't even get one of those listing appointments. But you know what, you're going to have days where you go 2 for 2 or 4 for 4. So focus on the activities that you can control. You can control the time that you spend prospecting, the time that you spend calling for new business. You can't always control whether the buyer is going to show up to closing. My very first deal in the real estate business was at a time when I had left my other job. I had started real estate. It took me a couple of months to get through the schooling and the licensing and all that. And I was working with a friend of mine and got this deal ready to go. And man, I was real excited for that first check. We got all the way to the day of the closing, and you know what? The lady just didn't show up to the closing. She decided she had something happen. She had a change of mind, and she was moving across the country to be with a family member, and that deal just totally fell apart. You can't control those sort of things. But what you can control is getting back on your horse, going back into the office, and making those prospecting calls, following up on your sphere of influence, building your team, doing the things that are going to make you successful. Okay, so just to make sure that you're all still awake here, I've got another little poll, another little question that I'd like to ask you. And on this one, I'd like to ask you, how many hours per week do you spend in your real estate business? And maybe some of it's in the office. Maybe you like to go home and spend time looking for properties on the MLS and that kind of thing. So yeah, add all that up. How much time are you spending on your real estate business? I'll go ahead and give you about 5 more seconds here to go ahead and vote. If you stepped away from the computer, come back real quick and click on one of those bullet points there: 20 or less, 20 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, or 60 hours or more. And okay, 3, 2, 1. We'll go ahead and close that poll. And let's see what we have here. So we've got, okay, so nobody on this call is a true part-timer. Nobody's working 20 hours or less. We got a pretty good balance of folks working 20 to 40. Nice little curve there, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, or 60 hours or more. So we have 50, 60, 69% of the people on this call are working more than 40 hours a week. I personally, I like to work hard. I probably am in that category of 60 plus hours a week. That's it's for folks much like myself. So getting up here and talking, this is a little bit of therapy for myself, I suppose. But secret number 4 is all about balance. You're more than just your work. Your life is more than just your work. You're more than a GCI number. Yeah, there's a couple times of the year, maybe at the President's Club trip or at the company awards banquet, where being number 1 is going to give you that ego boost that you love. But secret number 4 is really to just hit you between the eyes and make you think about balance for just a minute. 86,400, that's seconds in a day. So what are you doing with the time that you have? And what are you doing with the relationships that you have outside of real estate? And, people talk about juggling. I'm a big I've been really paying attention to things on, LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and all these posts. There's this big debate on work-life balance or work-life integration, and I think that those are kind of two sides of the same coin. I mean, however you look at it, work-life balance or work-life integration, you've got to figure out how to enjoy your work. I mean, hopefully you're in the business of real estate because you really like real estate and you really like working with people and it's something that you really enjoy. But hopefully you've got some other relationships and other things that are important as well, whether it's family relationships or social relationships, maybe it's community or charitable things that you're doing. Make sure that you're making time for those things as well. I mean, I can't tell you. I'm sure you guys have probably been in the real estate office and seen something similar. Maybe you've got new person that comes into the office. They're really a hot shot. Maybe it's a cute gal, cute guy, seems to have it all together, got a nice little family. And a few years later, they're climbing the ladder of success. And then what do you hear? They're working more and more. They're at the office late, and pretty soon you hear about divorce. Something like that happen, or you hear about a story when your coworkers who's got a relationship with their kid who's gotten himself into trouble, and they don't know why. Maybe it's drugs, maybe it's alcohol, or who knows what it could be. All kinds of trouble out there for our family members, and a lot of times that stuff happens because they're just not spending time. It's real easy to skip dinner because you've got a $15,000 commission that can be done if you just show them. In addition to the roles that I showed you earlier, like listing agent and buyer's agent, we've got some other roles, and I've got the things that are important. So if I'm a parent, my kid's in elementary school, and I'm concerned about their reading skills, I'm going to make sure that I'm reading to them, or they're reading to me 20 minutes a day. I'm going to put that on my calendar and I'll block that out so that when somebody calls up and says, hey, can we schedule an appointment to go look at that property? My default answer might be yes, anytime, anywhere. I'll drop everything for a client. I might say, hey, you know what, if it's all the same to you, could we do that at 7 instead of 8:30? Because that would work a little better. Oh, yeah, that's fine. A lot of times people will be accommodating to you if you give them an option. If you do a good job of managing your schedule and knowing when those important activities are, you're going to have more control over your time. And if you have a team, you're going to have somebody that you can delegate to. If you've got that date night or that championship soccer match that's happening on Saturday afternoon that is important to you, if you're going to look back on your life 15 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what are the things that you're happy that you went ahead and did? Those are the things that you're going to be happy that you did. One more house, one more listing, one more closing. Yeah, of course those things matter when it's time to pay the bills and all that stuff, but secret number 4 is think big picture. Think big picture. Take control, take ownership of your time. That's exactly what it is. It's your time. It's not somebody else's. Okay, secret number 5. This one right here is all about systems, processes. James mentioned another top 5 list that I've written that is referred to as the 5 building blocks of culture, and I talk a lot about systems and processes. So for the real estate agent, I want you to think for just a minute about the systems and processes that you have in your business. Now you might say, well, I'm just a sole proprietor. What systems and processes do I have in my business? Well, a system is your real estate business. The way that you get listings might be considered a system. Your transaction coordination checklist might be considered a process. A process is typically something that has a specific start and a specific end. Think about an assembly line, right? An assembly line is a good analogy, a good example of what a process might be. Now, a system tends to not be so clean. It tends to have some fuzzy edges. I think of more like a puddle on the surface. The edges are kind of, not always symmetrical. So what are the systems and what are the processes that you have in your business? Now this is, if you've ever heard the phrase or the term working on your business versus working in your business, if you are building a team, you have got to spend a fair amount of your time thinking about the business from a perspective of systems and processes as opposed to thinking about being in the business. Oh my gosh, I got to get a listing. Oh my gosh, I got to show those properties. Oh my gosh, I got to send out this pre-listing kit. I've got to prepare this CMA for this customer that I'm working with. So as we talk about technology, you heard me mention a couple of different times about the database, your most valuable asset. I got one other question here that I want to ask you in terms of a poll, and this one is about the size of your database. Now, this is one of those things where by default you might be inclined to brag. Bigger database is better. I'm just going to pick the bottom one. That's really not. You might be surprised at my comments here when I go ahead and publish the results here. But give me an idea of how many names are in your database. This is like how many leads have you captured? How many people are in your sphere of influence? How many people are you following up with on your team? And again, it's not necessarily that more is better, but based on the size of your database, you're going to have a different strategy for how to follow up with those people. Okay, so we've got most everybody who has voted here. And if nothing else, this will give you a little bit of some insights into how you compare with the other folks that are on the call here. So less than 500 at 17%, 500 to 1,000 at 25, 1,000 to 2,000 names, 33, 2,000 to 5,000, and then 5,000 or more. So 5,000 or more, that's a pretty good sized database. Chances are, I've met some pretty smart people, pretty good with numbers. I doubt that any of us remember 500 phone numbers. So obviously the database is huge value because it can do a lot more than we can do on our own. It's remembering names and numbers a lot more than we can do. Now if all you're doing is using your database to remember those names and numbers, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Hopefully these databases are reminding you of when to call and even automating some of the activities that you need to do. So again, a lot of what I talk about, I use this term database. The database is at the core of a lot of what you do. Secret number 5 is I talked about the systems and the processes. I'll just leave you with a few, 6 here in this list. These are 6 systems / processes that you want to do a process review. In my business, we'll do process reviews. And a process review means that we'll take one of these, we'll take, say, the planning and scheduling process, and we'll do a little assessment of it. We'll say, hey, let's look at our planning and scheduling process. What is it, first of all? So your planning and scheduling process might be, okay, every Sunday night at between 7 and 9 p.m. I like to look at my schedule. I like to create a plan for the week, and I block out the activities that I'm going to be doing for the week so that I get kind of all those important things into my schedule for the week. And then each day, the first thing that I do is I make a list of all the activities, the things that are on my head, and I capture them into my system, and then I go through and I prioritize those. So that would be my system. And then I ask myself, okay, how well is that system working for me? Is there stuff that I'm missing? Is there stuff that I'm skipping? So then I would go through to my transaction coordination process, and I'd say, okay, what is my transaction coordination process? And I say, well, it is this checklist of activities. When we get a listing, we put it together in the file, we scan it in, we send a copy over to the broker, we upload it to the MLS, and we review our checklist. And then we say, okay, is there anything in there that's missing? Have we had any problems in the last month since we last reviewed this process where we missed something that should have been, oh yeah, you know what, we always forget to go take the sign down. Well, it's because we don't have a task scheduled in there to take the sign down, and we end up getting charged this extra fee by the sign company because we lost their sign 6 months later. Okay, so let's add that task in. So these process reviews can help you fine-tune your business. There's a lot to do. There's a lot for one person. There's even more when you start to put a team in the mix here. But each one of these processes right here is something for you to focus on and say, I need to have a well-defined, and start with a yellow pad, start with a piece of paper, start with a Word doc, or start with a system like PlanPlus, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. But each one of these 6 areas right here is where you want to have a process documented and organized. So for lead capture, what is your system and process for lead capture? It's easy to say, well, I'm going to do Zillow, I'm going to do Truly, I'm going to do Realtor, I'm going to do open houses, I'm going to do Flizzbills, I'm going to do expireds. Chances are doing all that is going to get you less results than trying to focus in on 1 or 2 of those things and doing them really well. So take some time to focus in on each one of those areas and to build your process around it. For sphere of influence, I've got some blogs I've written on SOI systems and processes. A good one that I like to use for SOIs is to break your database. That we just asked that question about the database, to say what is the size of your database. So break your database down into an A and a B and a C category, and any good database should give you the ability to categorize this. PlanPlus Online definitely does that. Break your SOI into A, B, and C category, and devote majority of your time to your A's and a little less time to your B's and a little less time to your C's. I've got a great blog post on this you can check out. It's on the CRM Real Estate website as well. Try to take those A sphere of influence, meet them face to face once a month, once a quarter. Somebody who's down in your C list, maybe you're just sending them a Christmas card once a year. Maybe you're just adding them to your newsletter list that you send out to everybody, whereas somebody who's an A or a B is getting something more personalized, something more frequently. If you're building a team, those people that are in your C sphere of influence might be able to become an A or a B sphere of influence for somebody else on your team who has a little bit more time to put into it. So your buyer and your seller prospecting, each one of those, I would look at each one of those as separate. The way that you get leads for buyers may be a little bit different than the way that you get leads for sellers. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to make mention of these 5 and to focus on this idea of a process review. Reviewing these 6 are 6 that I find to be very helpful on a regular basis to make sure that you're, it's kind of like the oil change for your car. If you do these process reviews for the way that you've got your team organized and structured, each one of these process reviews might be something that you do with a different member of your team. You're probably going to have a planning and scheduling that applies to everybody. Your transaction coordination process review is going to be something that you do with your transaction coordinator. Your lead capture process review is going to be something that you do with your marketing coordinator. Okay, so we're trying to get you guys wrapped up here at 5 minutes to the hour, so you can get you back into your business and back into making money. And this is an interesting little survey and stat that I found here on this study was done by Active Rain, and there's a link to it on the Twitter page here for technology use. This was a survey done, and it compared basically the rich agent versus the poor agent. The rich agent was defined as somebody who's making $100,000 a year or more, and the poor agent, I think, was let's see, is it under $30,000? And so one of the biggest differences here was the amount that they had invested in technology. And again, this presentation here is sponsored by PlanPlus Online and the CRM software for real estate. So we've got to give the plug there for the software. But the average, what was referred to as rich agent, somebody making $100,000 a year or more, is spending 6 times as much on their technology as the poor agent. And so, this is one of those examples where it takes a little bit of an investment, it takes a little bit of a commitment to get some of these things in place. One of the best investments that you can make is your CRM software. You can see here in this survey, 87% more likely to use a CRM than somebody on the lower end. If you're still using your phone, or if you're using Outlook as your contact database, you're really missing out on the power of a relational database to connect your contacts to the activities and the tasks and the notes, as well as the transactions, as well as the marketing, the messages that you're sending out to each one of those. So I'll wrap my presentation up, and I'll leave you back with James here, who is a great productivity consultant and the sales representative for real estate with PlanPlus Online. James, I'll let you wrap things up.
Thank you very much, Keith. I appreciate your time on this one. And to all of you out there, hopefully this